Okay, I cut off your question there, but just overall, like some recommendations for growth. One thing that you kind of have to learn as you get more into this and as you meet other libertarians, libertarians became libertarians because they want to get left alone for the most part. They're tired of the state, they're tired of politics, and that. So it's really hard trying to get libertarians involved in the party, especially in rural areas, because on top of being libertarian and not wanting to have to deal with the state and all that, you also have a group of people who are moved out or live in rural areas because they didn't want to deal with people. I mean, that's my dream in the future is never to have to see anybody ever again. I hadn't quite gotten there yet, but so it is a little bit harder, and you're going to have to reach across maybe some party lines to find people who are discontent with the R's and the D's to bring them in, people with overlapping viewpoints on some certain stuff, guns, regulations, taxes. That's going to be the big things that we're going to see here in Texas, especially with property taxes. There's a lot of groups that are bipartisan that are anti-property taxes because they're just tired of paying rent on their house forever to the state. So trying to bring those people in, there's social media that you can work on with that. There's events you can do outreach at, stuff like that. For the social media part, um, with this being counties, I always suggest a Facebook page over a Twitter page or an Instagram page. And the reason that I do that is when you have a Twitter, it goes to everybody across the globe. When you have an Instagram, it goes to everybody across the globe. When you have a Facebook, Facebook is very good, as much as I hate it, it is very good at narrowing down and picking where you want your stuff to show up. You can join local groups for, I mean, David, you asked the question, so I'll go with yours. You can find local groups who are specific to Travis County or Austin. You can find, whether that's political groups, non-political groups, gun groups, tax groups, military, anything like that. There's going to be groups in every county that you can post your stuff on your page and then share with them. You'll also have Travis County will have Travis County News. With it being a larger county, you'll probably have Travis County News Northeast, South, and West, or something along those lines, where people are sharing the news that are happening in the county. And that's a place where you can do some outreach, whether it is responding. I like to do here, I follow the county sheriff's office, and they like to
Mm.
post they caught a dude with four joints and, you know, a vape pen of weed, and look at this big bust we had in his $12 in quarters, and they lay it all out like it's a huge drug bust. And I mean, interacting with posts like that will get you some traction, especially from the groups who are the people who think that weed legalization should be a top priority. But even in stuff like when your news groups comes, if you're having a meeting, if you're having a meetup, if you're going to be hosting a table somewhere, any of that stuff, you can post it on your Facebook page and then share it directly to these local groups, these local pages, the local gun groups, any of those things around here. One of our big events that we do like to do here in Waller that has probably the best reception of any of our meetups. We have more people not in the LP show up to our fuck the ATF meetings. It's how I put it out there. We go out to the gun range, we shoot a bunch of guns, we go afterwards to a close local sports bar or pub or something like that, drink alcohol, and we smoke cigars and cigarettes and whatever you want to do. That seems to be our best one. We usually have somewhere between 5 to 7 people new show up to those events. A couple of them will hang around. A couple of them we won't see again until the next one of those meetings. But those tend to be really good ones, and that's something that you can do, and then you can share it to those local pages. Travis is going to be a little harder with the next one. You'll have some of the easier, smaller ones like Chris in Johnson County. You would probably be fine with this. Nathan Polsky for sure in Lamar County. Reach out to your local newspapers. Reach out to them. Talk to them. A lot of, especially the very rural newspapers, are dying for content. They want stuff to put on their website so that people will be drawn into them. That could be press releases you do for them about what the LP is doing in your county. That can be articles. A lot of them in the smaller counties will allow you and even want you to do op-eds for them on different policies from the libertarian standpoint, and they'll publish those all day for you. So that'll give you another opportunity to outreach to them that way. The third one is the big one that you're going to see a lot of foot traffic is going to be hosting a table somewhere. There is lots of stuff in lots of places uh, to do events. We have locally a Rice Festival. We have a 4th of July festival. Um, we have gun shows. There's all kinds of different table. One thing I don't think that the Libertarian Party is focusing enough on is farmers markets. Farmers markets, I think, are a great place for us that we can actually get into. They're fairly cheap to run a booth there. Some of them won't let political parties in, but some of them will. But you're talking about people who are already working outside of the system to get their fruits and vegetables and dog treats and bread and whatever else it is that they're looking to get their eggs, outside of your local, system, and dealing individually with people one on one outside of what some folks would consider regular. So those are already people who are working outside of it and doing things, outside of the government per se, which we have a lot of overlap with a lot of those people. A lot of the homestead people will host booths there because they're homesteading and they have some extra vegetables or fish or, bacon, whatever it is. You're going to have people who wanted to sell their stuff, see the government is not allowing them to do it without these special things, and they're working outside of it at that point. Kevin, what do you got? Or Kenneth, I'm sorry, what do you got?
So we're kind of talking through these different events that we can go to. All of these obviously are going to incur some sort of cost, right? There's
Correct.
either resource cost as far as, volunteer hours going towards that, or you've actually got monetary outlay of, tabling and, acquiring booth space or things like that. What type of ROI are we looking at for some of these things? I.e., if I need to get one more donor, right, for let's say $25 a month, um, how much money do I have to expect to spend in order to find that one $25 donor?
There's not an answer to that. There's really not, because not a definitive answer, because being in Collin County, you're a larger county, and it might cost you a little bit less, because if you host a spot at the Dallas Balloon Festival, we use that. I know it's not in Collin, but we'll use that because it's close. You're going to have a lot more foot traffic through there. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but you're going to have way more foot traffic than me hosting a booth here in the rural area at the local chili cook-off that we do. My local chili cook-off cost us 35 bucks, 40 bucks to get a booth, and we'll get 150 people through there. Whereas the balloon festival, if you get a smaller booth, might cost you several hundred bucks, but you're going to get several thousand people through there. It is, I always encourage everybody to do an ROI when they do stuff like this. And an ROI there's multiple things that you can do to get your ROI. And money isn't necessarily the best. Like you can say, okay, I spent 65 bucks, I made 100 bucks, my ROI was X amount of dollars. Great. Okay. And you can do a lot of things with that kind of ROI. But I think where the LP is at, one of the best ROIs that you can get are solid volunteers who are going to help out with other things in the party. That could be the person you get to block walk for your next candidate. That could be the next vice chair or chair of the party. That could be the next, there's so many different things that you can get from volunteers, your next graphics person, your next social media person. So there's that too. Collecting emails is another ROI. If you spent 30 bucks and you got 30 emails, a buck an email is a little higher than what you would pay if you went out to just buy emails, but you've also got emails of people who are interested enough in the party to give you your email, which I think gives you a little bit more value than just like a blanket purchasing of emails. Did that answer your question? I mean, it's really hard to give you a definitive, how much should you expect to pay because Texas is so different everywhere, and the counties range from, Harris County has 3.5 million, Loving County has 44 people. Like, it's really hard to tell you a definitive answer on how much it's going to cost you to get a specific ROI in in any situation, just because Texas is so diverse and the counties that are in this call are so diverse.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I just use dollars in that specific example because it's just more or less a token of effort, right? Um, but even if we look in terms of like volunteer hours, as I go back to Colin and I say, hey, we need to grow. Our growth target is, let's say we want to pull in 30 new members in the next year. We should be able to some range at least be able to go, okay, well, if we want to grow by 30 members, we need to put forth 1,000 volunteer hours, right? Now, I know that it's not an exact science, but there should be some ballpark. In short, I don't think that I'm going to be able to put forward 5 hours and grow the party by 30 members, right? But so where does that kind of start? Just like a wrong, rough order of magnitude. What are we kind of looking at here in terms of how 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 do we start getting that ROI? How do I communicate back to the current members? Hey, this is the effort and the money I need you to start putting forward, right? Because the problem is, and we always run into this, nobody wants to just keep donating to a party that's not necessarily doing anything because we're building a war chest to go do something, right? So, but on the flip side, if you have an event, it's going to cost you $650. All of a sudden, that's really hard for five, loyal party members to essentially swing, right? But if I can kind of get those things kind of laid out, over several months and built out, then that becomes easier for people to swallow because then they're doing smaller donations over time, expecting, that growth down the way.
Yeah, I completely understand the ROI. So, like I said, the ROI is difficult to estimate what it's going to cost you because of how different all the counties are. I highly suggest each county to start keeping ROI so they can get their own data and learn from their own data on that stuff. But when it comes to, the state party's ROI on events is going to be different than my ROIs. It's going to be different from your ROIs. It's going to be different from every county. It's like what it costs to bring something in. You might be able to do something along the lines of, um, rural versus city or urban versus rural, what it takes in each of those. You might be able to put something together like that. But even like I can tell you, we hosted in my county, we hosted a chili cook-off. I found two new members and I got 35 emails from a 1 day chili cook-off in my county, in my neighborhood. It wasn't even a county-wide, it was a neighborhood. On the other side of that, we hosted a gun show. We paid about 65 bucks to do the table at the gun show, and we got about 20 emails. And one member who is planning on running for the city, or not city, the count for a
County
position. I
commissioner.
can't. Yeah, I think it was county commissioner. Um, so it's hard to say even within my own county when I put together the ROIs for different events, money doesn't always equate to better ROI, and foot traffic doesn't even always equate to better ROI because the foot traffic for the cook-off was much smaller than the foot traffic for the gun show and well outperformed the gun show's ROI, even though it was cheaper and had less people. So it's definitely something that needs to be done on a county by county level to try to figure out those numbers. Statewide, it's just too like it's too big of an area, Texas, and there's too many different beliefs politically and beliefs like morally and stuff like that to actually get like a statewide ROI. And even if I did, if I put it all together and I came up with an ROI on stuff, it would be wildly wrong because of how different every area is going to be in it. Like it would way overestimate in some areas, it would way underestimate in other areas, and you'd have very few areas where you hit the sweet spot on that it was correct.
Jacob, if I could just jump in here, one of the things that I think might be worthwhile, which is something I'm going to propose for our own county, is pick 5 things or four to six things that you guys think are gonna that would work for your county and and the nature of the people you're going after, whether that's gun shows, really cook-offs, whatever, and pick them, budget for them, figure out what they're going to cost, budget for them, and then say to your members at the start of the year, "Hey, look, this is what we want to do. This is the thing that we think will work. We're going to need X number of dollars. You guys can pay if everybody pays $5 a month for 12 months. We can do it all without taking any money out of the treasury. But I mean, just we don't have enough empirical data, and as you said, there's not enough empirical data that's consistent across counties throughout the state. So in order to actually have any kind of ROI estimations that are accurate, we're going to need data. And the best way to do that is to pick what you want to try, budget for it, do it, and see what happens. My opinion only. That's my opinion.
I 100% agree with that. Does and I wish I could give you a better answer for Kenneth. I really do. It's not something LP Texas has tracked in the past. It's something that I can reach out to the chairs as I make my monthly calls and try to get some ideas from them about what they think it is, what they think their, investment is to get an extra donor or an extra volunteer, or what they think it is to get somebody who will run for office. And I can kind of compile those numbers, and I'd be happy to share them with you when I start putting them together. I just don't know how helpful they're going to be from county to county. Like with yours being in Collin, you might have some overlap with, like, say, Denton or um, Fort Worth area, the Tarrant County. You might have some overlap with them. I don't think what you get in Collin is necessarily going to be pretty close to what Dallas County gets, because it's a little bit of a different, group of people. You're not quite rural, but you're also definitely not super urban like Dallas is. So even with it being that close, I don't know how much of an ROI from Dallas would be helpful to you, where maybe some of the other surrounding counties, even I think Johnson County might even be a little too rural to give an estimate on what you should expect in Collin, but maybe Denton or Tarrant would be a good overlap there for what you should expect. So as I reach out, and every month we're making these phone calls, as that happens, I'll start trying to collect some of that data and see how people are doing, as far as like what their ROIs are and estimates for those kind of things. And as soon as I can, put together some stuff like that, I'll let you
Okay, thank you.
know. Anybody else? Anybody got any other questions?
I had a
Otherwise,
question.
Susan, yes.
Yes. Okay, so you mentioned emails
Mhm.
at these events. You're collecting emails, which I'm impressed. I find people pretty squirrely about giving me their emails. So, do you have any suggestions on that? But also, once you get the emails, what are you doing to kind of efficiently collect them and then use them? And do y'all put out a newsletter, or what are your suggestions on using the emails?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you something that I've learned from collecting emails. I have an email sign up sheet. When I show up with an email sign up sheet that has no emails on it, very few people sign up themselves. When I show up with an email list that already has, it got brought over from a last meeting or something like that, where it's got 6 or 7 emails on it and it's already started, people are more willing to sign an email list that's not brand new and fresh. I have recognized that as time goes on, that if you have other people on there, more people are willing to sign on to those. But if they're going to be the first one, most people aren't interested in being the first or the second one to sign up for those email lists. So keep that in mind as you do these email lists. And I have a template for an email list sign up. It's just a basic Excel sheet that I can send out to anybody who's interested for those emails. But maybe like you and the board and a couple of your friends sign up for it first before you take it out to an event, and you'll have better you'll have more people sign up, better results doing it that way than you will coming in with a fresh one. Once those emails are collected, we do send out a monthly newsletter. There's a couple of different email services that you can use to send out those messages. We here in my county, we use MailChimp. It is the one that I prefer the most. I've tried GMass. I didn't like it. There's a couple of other options that I haven't tried that you can work with to send out those emails. And some of my emails are super long. We have a bunch going on in the county. We have a couple of events coming up, a meetup coming up where, asking for this to give money to that. We do a fundraiser here. We try to once a month. There's a local women's shelter that we try to raise money for, to donate the money to them for, it's a
Saw it over.
what's that? No. So there's a lot of things that you can knock me off track. But so some of them are really long. Some of them are just like, hey guys, thanks for showing up to the last meeting. We really appreciate it. If you didn't make it out, we'd love to see you at the next meeting. This is where it's going to be. I usually send one out within a couple of days of our meetup, thanking everybody for showing up, inviting people on the list who didn't show up to the next one. And then about a week out from the next meetup, I'll send them another email as a reminder, give any updates that we've had in the county, any growth, anything like that. So I try to send out through the county 2 emails a month just to kind of tell them about it, thank them for it, remind them about it. Because if I tell you 4 weeks from now we're having a meeting, chances are, knowing myself, I'm going to forget about that meeting. I'm not going to show up. But if I get an email reminder a week before, hey, don't forget we're having this meeting, it goes really well. And then I think that's the best I've had with the email stuff once I collect them is just twice a month emails. Keep them on. MailChimp has an unsubscribe, so you'll know who unsubscribed for them, so you won't send them out again. So it works really well. Like I said, there's a couple of other options, but that seems to be the one that's worked best for me.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody have anything else they'd like to talk about? We can jump into like a brief events kind of thing. I've kind of touched on that with the places to have them. One cool thing that I think a lot of people miss out on that I think is really important that you should do, look for overlap groups. I think that's missed out on a lot. Being the Libertarian Party, you're going to have a lot of groups that have single issue overlaps with us. And while you might not win them over to the Libertarian Party, you can win them over to helping you. If you're, if you make connections with something as simple as school choice. Let's do school choice. And you're going to do an event on school choice. If you've made the relationship in your county with the school choice groups, because there's going to be some, because it's such a hot topic right now in Texas. If you've made relationships with the school choice groups, whether you decide in your county pro or anti school choice because of how they've written whatever law has come out about it, because I very much am in favor of school choice, but also I see the bills that are coming out of Texas government that have not been great. They might have been a baby step in the right direction, but they're not necessarily good. But if you've made those connections with them, when you get together and you're going to do a specific event, a specific outreach, or you're going to show up to the city council or something like that, where you're going to push for school choice, you have this extra group of people who might not necessarily be libertarians, but they're very much on the same side of school choice for you, that you can call upon to show up, to give y'all support, to voice your support. So where maybe you might have 8 or 10 people from the LP show up, maybe you have 8 or 10 people from the LP and 5 or 6 people from here. So now you've got, 12 to 15 people who have showed up for your event. to voice your opinions to these people. Uh, David, go ahead.
Yeah, on that note, I think it's important to remember that those people that we do crossover events with might not be quote unquote real libertarians. They might have done something or be of a position on a different issue that is anathema to us. People like Briscoe Kane and 128 or 118. He's a hardcore conservative Republican, but he supports school choice, right? So we need to make sure that we're not, judging people for the other things if we're working on a common issue. So be willing to kind of shake hands and, hey, we support you guys on this and you support us on this, and not worry about the rest of it for the time being.
That's one of the things we need to learn, and it's something that I plan on touching on. Is like, you don't have to agree with these people on everything. It's not, full party coalitions. It's single issue coalitions. There's all kinds of groups that I completely disagree with that I would never support that are very good on gun rights issues. Amazing on gun rights issues. I wouldn't support them in 90%, 99% of the things that they stand for, but they're great on guns. Awesome. When I want to do something with guns and try to get, the local politician to support Second Amendment rights, this is a good group to call on to get them out to help me with this issue. I don't agree with them on anything else, but I agree with them on guns. And I can put together, for the sake of guns, I can put together our disagreements for the afternoon or the day or the month to work really well with them on these guns. And I think we have a tendency as libertarians to make perfect the enemy of the good, where we don't agree 100% with them. So get out, leave us alone. We don't want anything to do with you, status. No, like, work with them on what you can work with them on. No matter what the subject is, you're going to have overlaps with people that disagree with you politically that you're going to have to work with, and you need to work with if you're going to make any kind of real difference. And I think that goes to one of the things I always like to tell when I do these trainings is talk to people. Talk to people. Stop talking at people. The Libertarian Party is very bad about talking at people. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Okay, well, how about I disagree with you on this, and this is why I disagree with you. What are your thoughts on this? Talk to people. Be compassionate when you talk to people. They might be wrong. You might think that they have the dumbest stance in the world. Yelling you have the dumbest stance in the world at them is never going to get them on your side. It won't happen ever. It's not a possibility. So when you talk to people, make sure that you are being, compassionate and having actual talks with people instead of at people. Another really good piece of advice that I like to give to people is nobody got to the libertarian. Well, okay, some people, very few people got to the Libertarian Party because they fell into the Libertarian Party rabbit hole. Most people became a libertarian because you had conversations with somebody who was a libertarian and you weren't a libertarian. And you didn't get there by yourself. They came to you. And that's something that we need to focus on as well, is meeting these people where they're at. Going to them, finding out where they are, finding out what they are doing, and going to them with our message instead of expecting, we have the perfect ideals. Every libertarian believes we have the perfect ideals, the perfect platform. But these people, a lot of people don't know it. They don't know what a libertarian is. We had a event in Bexar County a couple weeks ago. I was out in Bexar County with them, and the guy who was doing the show said, "Hey, we're libertarians." And she's the girl who was there, and she said, I don't vote for liberals and Democrats." Like, no, it's not the same thing. Most people don't know who we are. Most people don't know what we stand for. And it's our responsibility to go to them and talk to them and tell them the differences between us. Tell them why we're better on gun control than the right is, and why we're better on anti-war than the left is. Like, that's up to us to be the mouthpieces of this party, and shouting at people on a computer isn't going to do it, and sitting at your house expecting them to come to you isn't going to do it either. Like we need to get out and we need to get involved and we need to have conversations with people. The one thing I can say for the overlapping stuff, go to your local VFW. Every VFW has, you're going to have your military people in there people who get out of the military, a lot of them tend to be anti-war when they get out. So you'll have the overlap with that. You'll be able to, maybe recruit a few people from the local VFW. But one of the cool things that I think is often overlooked in the LP is when you get to the VFW, every VFW in every city has a bulletin board. And the bulletin board has all the local groups that are taking place in that county or in that area, whether it's preppers or gun people or anti-tax people or farmers who want to sell their meat or their milk or whatever it is. There's all the groups around town. That is the place that you can show up. You can show up and you can have, find the overlaps with those people. And these are groups that you might not see on Facebook. May not see on, social media or email or whatever it is that are active in your county that are having 15, 20 people show up and have conversations with. I have a buddy who was in a roller pigeon group. Like it's actually pretty cool. Like I don't want to get into it, but it's actually pretty cool. But there was a website, you wouldn't find it. There was not a Facebook group for them. There wasn't anything like that. And he found them on a bulletin board somewhere. And he showed up and they had 75 people out there with their pigeons, flying their pigeons and watching them go and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there's groups out there that you will not find unless you make a concerted effort to go out there and find them. And these are groups that will have overlap with us that will, especially the like CB radio people are very big anti-government people. They have gotten these radios to get around the communication systems and are pissed off that they're having to get licenses to use these radios. So it's a very big anti-government group that you can go have conversations with in most counties. Have those groups in them because there are CV radio people all over the place. Preppers, another prepper group, survivalist groups. It's another group that has a big mistrust of the government. So, I mean, go to your local VFW, check out those bulletin boards, see what's around, show up to some events. It's going to take a little bit of manpower for you to get out to them. You're not going to be able to hit up everyone every month. I get that, but go out into the community and talk to people. Anybody got any?
Jacob, if I could piggyback on that, the proactive going out in the community, is that something at all that voter gravity could be useful for? Hey, these people voted Libertarian or otherwise, and I don't know, maybe send out a mass mailing or something like a postcard, or is that too invasive? You think?
I don't know that you would have a big ROI on sending out actual mailers to people. Using myself specifically, when I get junk mail in the mail, I don't read it a whole bunch. If there's something on it that kind of catches my eye, I'll take a look, but most people just throw it out. And most people will look at who sent it and say that's not important or whatever. I don't know that, like, political season, I think you can use it for good because people are looking at voting. They're going to be interested, more interested in that than they're going to be getting just a random flyer from the Libertarian Party of Travis County. I don't know how many people are going to stop and actually look at that. And cost wise, even if you can get, the bulk mailers that you can send out to them, you're still looking at, 15 to 20 cents a piece, depending on how many you send out. And it can get really expensive really quickly to mail out a ton of stuff that I don't know how many people are going to actually look at.
What about like 50 to 100 flyers? And like you said, VFWs, community centers, bulletin boards, that would probably be a good ROI. It's just printing them out and easy. Yeah.
I mean, printing is cheap, especially if you have your own printer. I would say if you're going to do it, you're going to go put your stuff up on the bulletin board there, make it eye-catching. Put something on it that's going to make people stop and look at it. Don't put a page full of just words. Nobody's going to read it. It's not going to happen. Put a picture on there. make it interesting that people, if you're going to put it in there and it's going to be anti-war, uh, put a picture of whatever on there and make a big bold typing that's like, stop killing people across the world. Something that people are like, wait, what? You know, and they'll stop and look at it. Make it something, um, yes, provocative. That, David, that is good. Make it something that somebody's going to see and they're going to double take on and stop at. A bunch of words of, hey, the Libertarian Party is here. We're doing meetups every month. Nobody's going to stop and read that. Like, make it interesting, make it eye popping, make it catch people's attention quickly. Any other questions? I mean, I'm kind of wrapped up on what we're doing. I can get into a little bit more social media, but I plan on our comms team coming on here in the next month or two and giving a full presentation on comms. I mean, I can go into candidates and types of candidates, but I plan on having actually Jeff Miller. I've talked to him. He's going to come on here and talk to everybody about recruiting candidates because I swear he's spiking the water because he gets like 80 candidates every election cycle. It's wild. Um, I can go into college outreach. I have somebody coming on for college outreach in the next couple of months to talk to everybody about how to talk to kids, you know, how to get them involved, how to get them politically active, stuff like that. I mean, I can touch on some of this stuff, but I have, for at least those specific topics, I have people who know it better than me, is who can come on and talk to y'all about that. So look forward to those in the next couple of months. Anybody else got anything? Perfect. If all I can say is if y'all take one thing from this, or a couple of things from this, be proactive, talk to people like they're people, you know, be compassionate with them and go find them. They're not going to find you. They're not going to show up and knock on your door. Like, you're going to have to go out to the community and talk to people. And if that's not you, if you don't want to go out to talk to people and have conversations with them, completely understand that's not for everybody. Find somebody in your county who is. There is at least one person in every county party who loves to talk to people, who loves to have conversations with people and try to sway people. Get that person out to these events. Get that person out to go there. Even if you have to drive them, hang out with them, kind of sit in the corner and be quiet. Let them do their thing because they love it. They will talk. They will talk all day. I don't know if you realize that's me, but yes. So just guys, you're gonna have to find them, and you're gonna have to be compassionate when you do find them. And without those two things, we're never gonna grow. So keep that in mind. With that being said, and nobody having more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and end this.